Okay, so here I'm just going to demonstrate the test proofing of another wood block that I have that is solid pine. So it's a very soft wood and it's very easy to get. Uh, you can't necessarily get a lot of fine detail with the softer wood, but for more larger expressive works, it's easier to carve and it's better for a lot of like line work. And so I felt that the clouds in this one were a bit too heavy. So I ended up carving out a significant amount of the cloud formations. And I just wetted my paper, wet, wet my paper down. And so yeah, let's get ready to print. I just have two, but hopefully it'll show you uh, a bit of the process and the logic of doing multiple prints and multiple runs. It's really when you're doing hand printing, any form of printmaking, you're always going to have experience things through trial and error. It's very different. I mean, painting in general, art in general is like that. But with printmaking, it's a more of a laborious process and it's more of a systematic process because it's more of the steps that you take. It's not like each painting where different paintings and different subject matter has different complications and different little challenges to overcome. But generally, I mean, you do follow a method, but generally, this method is very solid and very repetitive. And that's the beauty of it because once the creative work is done, there still is, especially with hand printing, a bit of a skill to determine the ink level and what you want the print to look like and so forth. So I just put some traditional Japanese nori paste on the block. So nori paste is, of course, Japanese rice paste, and it's 100% organic. It's been around forever. Same with Sumi ink, which I'm using here, as you can see. And Sumi ink is carbon from hardwood plus the animal fat from uh, the fat tallow, and it's rendered down, and it's the basis of pretty much the oldest forms of ink, and it's a very heavy ink. And uh, apparently, Yetsudo they make the same formula that they've made for hundreds of years or so forth. So let me just ink up the block. And the rice paste, the nori paste, it's what helps the ink become stickier and it helps bind it to the paper. And you always want a bit of slickness and stickiness when you're doing any sort of printing. You don't want the ink to be too watery. So I think that's a lot of ink, but usually when you get into the habit, you get into the run of doing multiple prints, uh, you can really just have one print that's very thick and then do another piece of paper that's been wetted down. This is Japanese, Chinese shodan paper, rice paper. And so what I like to do, I just try to keep it a bit even with the edges of the stopper. And so what you can do is you can just basically put on another piece of paper and only ink up the block every few pieces. So hopefully this works. Again, circular, even pressure. Sometimes I have to nail down a little stopper because the block tends to move. But this one I'm pretty confident. And this piece of paper creates a smoother surface, uh, and it prevents the rice paper from being torn. So I think we have a good print. Oh, that looks like a good print. And we have actually quite a beautiful print. That's actually quite good. And so what I do is I take it, I have a little clothesline I put here with clothespins. And I basically just hang it up, and it's good, and I used to have like two rows here, but that was too for my small studio space it becomes too uh, you know cumbersome, takes too much room. So what I'm doing is I'm just dabbing a little bit of ink, and it has a good amount of nori paste, and I'm just going to even up the ink a bit more. So let's do another one. Okay, make it a bit even. Tap it down, and you can already see this is what I mean by the oldest form of printing is ukiyo printing, because it's requires minimal amount of tools. You really just need carvers and brushes, and one day I will do a number of carving demonstrations. But and because the paper is wet, you can keep it wet and do multiple layers of ink and color, but it the ink absorbs into the paper with a minimal amount of pressure. Whereas with printmaking with an etching press, it requires um, not as much moisture, and you can use lino and so forth. Although I do hand print with lino, but it's the same sort of method of wetting down the paper and and using what they call a baren. And this is a plastic version of the original bamboo barens. And sometimes you just have to really get into more of a meditative mode and just follow the steps and let yourself go. And it's really a good practice. It's really almost, I view it as a spiritual practice when I'm doing hand printing. This is why, it's not that I don't have the money, but this is why I really didn't go out and buy an etching press, even though I do have lino cut, because this to me is uh, connects me to traditions in art making that is older than myself, way older, and it connects me to uh, and a similar method was also present in Europe, by the way. But this really, I believe, is something that needs to be taught, and it's something that artists in the modern world should go back to, even if it's a different, more impressionistic style of carving. So this is the second one, and voila. I do like pine for these very big, swooping types of line work and carving. And it's also easier to print, and it gives you these nice, bold lines. So maybe what we can do is have a few more sheets. So what I've done is I've taken two more sheets of paper, just to get into the general rhythm of printmaking here. And plus, I don't want to waste the ink that I've poured out. So now it's time to reapply the ink now that the block has dried up a bit. And again, like I've said, it's a very repetitive process. Okay, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Okay, try to line things up. Okay, To me, it really doesn't matter how even the sides are because I usually, whenever I sell prints, I always chop them with a one of those school paper cutters, and I glue them individually to sheets of archival paper, so it's not really a big concern to uh, to have them perfectly square and even. Okay, see how it worked. And again, another very good print. A little bit of flaring on the side, but I like that faded out look. I like how I didn't carve all the way to the edge. And usually, what I do is I like to hang them evenly uh, from first to last. Oh God, that was such a terrible band back in the day. From first to last, so I know the number of each print, uh, and it's easier to mark them in a series. Another, but another downside to pine is that they usually don't hold up against like a lot of printing series over and over and over again. But this one I carved pretty deeply, so it's not that much of a problem. But usually harder woods, they will last quite a long time, and they will go through quite a number of prints before they're too gummed up or they lose detail just from the pressure of printing. Okay, that's pretty good. And already, you could see the ink being taken up into the paper. Uh, Usually, I like to use wax as a cover, as a protector sheet, because it doesn't absorb the moisture as much, and you could keep using it and using it. But I believe this is a good print. So let's see. And if it's not to your liking, you can always re-ink it. But this is a pretty decent print. I do like the stippling effect on the field here part here. So this has been a good demonstration of the traditional method of block printing, of ukiyo block printing. So hopefully everyone enjoyed, and goodbye.